5 very scary Christmas Eve horror stories. I'm never going to forget Christmas Eve of 2018. I was 23 years old, living in a cramped studio apartment in Pittsburgh while working my first real job out of college. I couldn't afford to fly home to Texas, so I'd resigned myself to spending the holiday alone. The building I lived in was one of those old converted warehouses, and my floor had maybe 6 other units. I barely knew any of my neighbors. On Christmas Eve, I got home from work around 6 p.m. When I got to my floor, there was a package sitting outside my door. No shipping label, no return address. Just my first name written in black marker on brown paper wrapping. I brought it inside and opened it. Inside was an old VHS tape with a piece of masking tape on the side that had a date written on it. December 24th, 1996. I didn't own a VCR, and the tape itself was unsettling. Who still used VHS? And why would someone leave this at my door? Around 10:30, I couldn't take it anymore. I knocked on my neighbor's door 2 units down, a guy in his early 40s I'd seen a few times. I asked if he had a VCR. He did, and he invited me in to watch it. He hooked it up to his TV and popped the tape in. At first, it was just static. Then the image cleared. It was footage of a house shot from outside. The camera was shaky, handheld, and whoever was filming was standing in the yard looking up at a second-story window. Inside the window was a woman. She was standing perfectly still, just staring out into the yard. The camera zoomed in slowly. She was middle-aged, with long dark hair. Her face was pale, almost gray, and her eyes were wide open, unblinking. The footage went on for maybe 30 seconds. And then, without warning, she smiled. It wasn't a normal smile. It was too wide, too forced. The tape cut to black. My neighbors said it was probably just some old home movie. But I knew someone had left this at my door specifically. When I got back to my apartment, I started searching for the date on the tape. December 24th, 1996. What I found made my stomach drop. On that date, in a small town about 2 hours outside Pittsburgh, a woman named Carol Hendricks had been reported missing. She was 42, lived alone, and was last seen at a grocery store. She was never found. I clicked on an article that had photos. The second photo made me nearly drop my laptop. It was a picture of her house, the same house from the tape. I didn't sleep that night. Around 3 a.m., I heard footsteps outside my door. Slow, deliberate footsteps that stopped right in front of my apartment. After what felt like an eternity, the footsteps moved away. When the sun came up, I looked through the peephole. Sitting on the floor, directly in front of my door, was another package. I called the police. They took the tape and the package and filed a report. But I never heard back from them. I moved out 3 weeks later. To this day, I don't know who left those packages or why they chose me. This story takes place on Christmas Eve of 2015. I was 28, working as a night nurse at a small hospital in rural Idaho. I'd taken the overnight shift because the pay was double. The hospital was old, built in the 1960s, and at night it was oppressive. The fluorescent lights would flicker randomly, and you could hear every little sound. I was assigned to the 3rd floor, the long-term care ward. We had maybe 8 patients total, all elderly, most with dementia. Around midnight, I started my first round of checks. When I got to room 307, I found Margaret, an 86-year-old with advanced Alzheimer's, sitting upright in bed, staring at the wall. Her eyes were fixed on the far corner of the room, and her mouth was hanging open, like she was seeing something that terrified her. I tried to calm her down, but her eyes stayed open, still fixed on that corner. About an hour later, I heard footsteps coming from down the hall, slow and uneven, like someone dragging their feet. I looked up, but the hallway was empty. Around 2 a.m., I went back to check on Margaret. When I opened the door, I stopped dead. There was someone standing in the corner of the room, a figure, tall and thin, dressed in what looked like a dark coat. They were facing the wall, completely still. I called out, asking who they were. The figure didn't move. I stepped further into the room, reaching for the light switch. The moment my hand touched it, the figure turned around. It wasn't a face exactly. It was more like the suggestion of a face, like someone had drawn a rough outline in charcoal. The features were blurred, but I could feel it looking at me. I backed out of the room and ran to call security. They checked Margaret's room and said it was empty. They checked the security footage, and it showed me entering the room, staying for about 10 seconds, and then running out. There was no one else. Around 4 a.m., Margaret's heart rate started to drop. By the time the doctor arrived, she was gone. I quit that job 2 weeks later. I couldn't walk those halls knowing what I'd seen. And I know that whatever it was there for Margaret. Christmas Eve of 2016 is a night I'll never forget. I was 30, living in a small town in Vermont with my girlfriend, Rachel. We'd rented a cute cabin surrounded by woods on 3 sides. Around 8 p.m., we heard footsteps crunching through the snow outside, circling around the cabin. I looked out the window, but the backyard was empty. 20 minutes later, we heard footsteps on the front porch. I opened the door, but no one was there. Just footprints in the snow leading up to the door and back down. Around 11:30, I heard something that made my blood run cold. A voice, faint but distinct, coming from outside. Someone was singing Silent Night, but the voice was off. Too deep, too slow, almost mocking. I looked out the window and saw someone standing at the edge of the woods. They were tall, wearing dark clothes, just standing there singing. I yelled at them to leave. The singing stopped immediately. The figure stood there for another few seconds, then slowly walked back into the woods. We called the police. They found footprints in the snow, following them into the woods before they disappeared. Around 1 a.m., we heard footsteps on the roof, slow and deliberate, moving from one end to the other. Then we heard a loud thump, like something had jumped off the roof. I ran to the window and saw a figure running away toward the woods. The police found boot prints on the roof, accessed by climbing a tree. We packed our stuff and left that night. We broke our lease and moved to a different town a month later. Christmas Eve of 2020 was the worst night of my life. I was 26, living alone in Nashville during the pandemic. That evening, I heard a knock at my door. A man in a delivery uniform said he had a package, but needed me to sign for it downstairs. Something felt wrong. I told him to leave the package by the door. He got frustrated and left. About 30 minutes later, my phone rang. A man's voice said, "You should have come downstairs." Then he hung up. I called the police. An officer came and took a statement, but there were no delivery trucks in the parking lot. He suggested someone had been trying to lure me out. Around 4 a.m., someone tried my door handle, slowly turning it back and forth. I called 911 and stayed on the line until officers arrived. I moved out the following week. I don't know what that person wanted, but I'm glad I trusted my instincts. This final story happened on Christmas Eve of 2022. I was 29, and my wife and I had just had our first baby, Lily. She was only 3 months old. Around 1 a.m., I woke up to Lily crying. When I opened the nursery door, I froze. The window was open. I knew for a fact I'd locked it before bed. I picked up Lily and called the police. They found muddy footprints below the nursery window and pry marks on the window frame. Someone had broken in while we were sleeping. Nothing was taken. The only thing disturbed was the nursery window. We installed cameras and a full security system. We've never had another incident. But I still check Lily's window every single night, sometimes 2 or 3 times. I think about what could have happened if I hadn't woken up when I did. So those are my 5 very scary Christmas Eve horror stories. Have any of you experienced something terrifying on Christmas Eve? Drop your stories in the comments below. And if you enjoyed these stories, smash that subscribe button. I've got tons more scary content coming your way. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there this holiday season.